Give everyone a couple minutes to join here. Hey everyone, thanks for joining today. We'll get started here in just a second. Apologies for starting a little bit late. Looks like everyone's still joining. I know we have a pre-submitted question we're going to ask. Serena's posting in the chat. Give me just a minute and then we'll kick off here while we get everyone a second to join. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and kick off here. Pre-submitted question, how do you expose a form to a user in the portal? Okay, what a great question. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to do this. I believe, Janice, this is your question?
Yes.
Okay, so it depends. There's lots of options here. And I'll run through a couple of them. First things first, let's create a place for us to work in. I'll call this Lunch and Learn. I don't know what time. I'll just say 8/17/21. And let me create a flow here. And I'll create a form. Maybe not like that. And I will create new. I won't change the name, it doesn't matter. I'll put a label here that says, I am a form, and a button. So the flow we're gonna create here, its behavior can be anything. It doesn't have to have a form, it could do anything we want. The question is, how do we get it to show up in different places in the portal? So the default sort of way is to create what we call a workflow catalog. And you can think about this as a easily accessible set of flows for your users to run. And so what I'm gonna do is go to System, Applications, Workflow Catalog. You see I have 3 default folders here. I can add new folders with Create Folder. Let's go under General. I'll right-click General and I'll say Add Catalog Item, Add Run Flow. And this will be called, Submit New PTO. And I'll scroll down and select the flow I just built, which we'll assume is a PTO flow. So I'll pick this. which will be all my apps, Lunch and Learn 8/17/21 Flow 1, and add this thing. Now what you'll notice is at the top here, I have Start Workflow, and inside of it, I have General. If I add a flow into default or a flow in Administrative Service, you'll see these show up as well. And I can expand General, and now I can click Submit New PTO. Now in 7, we have the slide out option, but to get it closer to what you might see, let me edit that. Let me click on General. Here's Submit New PTO. I can edit this thing, and I can say, show form as designed will be show form dialog, and save. If I run this again, it'll show up in a dialog window. So I am a form. So that's the first most general way to expose a flow as an action in the portal, is to put in the workflow catalog. You can also add it as a right-click action on a folder. So let me come under here, and I'm going to add another folder, and I'll call this, like my tasks dashboard or something. We're going to create a custom dashboard for our users to do their work at. And on my tasks, if I right click, I've got a bunch of options here. Now this option set will be determined by your permissions. I'm an admin, so I've got all of the actions. But what I can do is if I right click, go to Manage, Page Dashboard, Add Flow as Action. I'm going to do another thing, which is submit, same thing, submit PTO request. And I'm going to pick or create flow. I'm going to pick the flow I just built, find it again in the folder tree here, my apps, Lunch and Learn, Flow 1, pick, add action. And now if you notice, if I right click, there's two things you should see. If I right click, I have a submit PTO request here, action, that I can run, and it'll run the same form on my behalf. But you'll also notice in the action bar here at the top, I have it. So what you should see is this action bar. It exists by default in 7, but this is a page component in version 6 and earlier that you can add. Will also show me submit PTO request. So we've got two views of the action context when you click on a thing, an action bar, or the right-click action context menu. And these are the other two main ways that you can show. And oftentimes, what most customers do, especially if they're building, like let's assume this is a PTO request, or maybe like an HR dashboard where I can see all my requests. I could see, like I have something like this, like I'd have like a report viewer with say like all of my submitted PTO requests, and then I could have an action in that same page just to submit a new PTO request. So this action bar based view is the primary way we create. Let me show you some examples here from our local. I'm going to pull over into this screen, one of our internal systems here. And this is a dashboard that the support team uses to do work. You can see we've got a ton of workflows here in our workflow catalog. And one of them is submit support ticket. If I expand support, you'll see we have, there should be, nope, I'm making that up. We have a submit support ticket, submit doc ticket, submit dev tickets, view our internal support FAQ, submit an IT ticket. So one of the things, let's look at IT. So this dashboard is a space for support team members to go and access their ticket list that they can use to work that ticket. And each of these tickets has their own custom actions. And then we give them some shortcuts. Everyone can submit a general IT request, but to prevent the team from just to save like a half second, we've added that same action. I can click submit IT ticket here or submit IT ticket here. It's the same flow, but it was trivial to add. We did that right click add flow as action thing I just walked through. And and so what we've done is we've added those. I can right click on the, not here, that's the workflow catalog, on tickets. You'll see all of these actions which show up on the top action bar are in the context menu. But this action context bar on a folder that's hosting a page that we've built a dashboard on, or in the workflow catalog here, like you can see, are the primary ways that we've that you can expose actions to users in the portal. Janice, questions about any of that stuff I walked through there?
Nope, they pretty much covered it.
Okay. Ismini, I think we absolutely need a doc that, I know we talk about workflow catalog, we might talk about some other pieces, but I think we definitely need a doc with almost the same title, exposing actions as flows as actions in the portal, that covers these 3 different scenarios, please, if you don't mind making that one of our follow-on items for this call, please.
Right.
Okay, so that's that question, which again, for posterity, was how to expose flows or forms as actions in the portal. All right, Maria's got a question here. Our users would like the ability to create their own versions of reports using whatever fields they would like to see, likely with the ability to filter on any of those fields, visible or not. I envision the easiest way to do this would be to create a default report that contains all the fields and allow the users to save multiple versions and favorite them as they see fit. This would be read-only and based on a case entity. Now, we do let users edit reports themselves. To be fair, I have never actually done this before. So let's build ourselves an example. We'll create a report. We'll just use entity data source since that has lots of stuff in it. And we'll say entity data source, and let's pick entity name, created by, created on, state, and table name, sure. And we'll go ahead and put this report on a page. So create a page. And we'll put a report viewer on this page. We will select our report we just made. Report 1. We will save and close this and drop that report on this folder we just created, my tasks dashboard, add page dashboard. Call this thing details, pick page, which would be all page 1, pick and save. So here is details with our view. Now, who on my end knows how to actually allow a user to edit the report themselves? There's edit report, but that's because I'm a admin. Save report definition, download send report.
You're asking for a non-admin user to be able to edit the report in the portal?
Yeah, I believe you can do this. I know we've had this type of behavior before. They could add and remove columns. I'm about to get stumped live on a call here. Joy. Let's see.
First.
I'm almost certain we had this unless we removed it. Maybe it's in 6. There used to be like an add or remove columns thing.
I didn't see one when I tested it, which is why I believe I have to create them a custom report with every single field, and then they can show and hide them as they see fit. I didn't think they could use an existing, I didn't see a way for them to use an existing report and add additional columns to it. Doesn't mean there isn't one. I didn't see one in 6.6. 6.16.
Okay, let's see. I thought we could do this. In fact, Brian Carey, if you don't mind asking in support if anyone knows while I try to muck my way through this live on a call here.
Sure.
That'd be, let's look at this report viewer. View.
That was not my intention, but if you could repeat how to pre-submit questions, that would be great, because that's what I intended to do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Sabrina, can we get Maria that information, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Allow adjusting. Oh, good grief. Allow adjusting of column properties. Show editable runtime filters. Report selection. Selection folders. Show snapshots. Show refresh. Show export. Show edit. Show save. Allow edit report button in header. Allow group collapsing, show action bar. I think I'm gonna have to figure out how and if and how we can do this for you. and follow up. I swear we've been able to do this. I've just never actually done it before. Column filtering enabled. Like, what does that exactly mean? Because if I look, I'm a user. So if I'm in the portal, I'm looking at, oh, let's try this again. Let me make that a visible in the end user portal visibility show. So go to portal. Here's my tasks. I'm looking at a report. Columns, width unit, group by, nothing there. I can change the report, but that doesn't do anything for me.
Hey, Will Osmond said he believes that we can give non-admins the ability to add columns temporarily.
Yeah, exactly. I'm hoping someone could tell me how.
Yeah, I'm trying to dig into that now.
So if they added them temporarily, would they be able to save it under their own?
Yeah, and you should be able to save report definitions. That's what a report definition is. It's like,
Okay.
I move a report around and then I can save it. So I can say, oh, I hate the order of this. And I don't need to say, you as a designer, come fix my report. I can just move it around and then that saves it. And I can use that saved report definition, which involves modifying the existing columns and adding additional columns, I believe. I could just be wrong here. Maybe I've been assuming we had this capability for a long time. So I think what I'd like to do here, Maria, is take that offline and follow up with you. I honestly don't know how to do this. And
Not a problem.
Okay.
I will happily learn and report back.
Okay, thank you.
Either we've never been able to do it, or we removed it in 7 for some reason, either intentionally or inadvertently when we changed our report viewer. And I don't have easy access to a 6x instance to test on right now.
Okay. No problem.
And maybe someone will tell me by the time this call is over. So I'll move on to Chris's question here, at which point I'll be able to walk you through it. So this is I appreciate you and also don't appreciate you stumping me here. I'm feeling very insecure right now. Now I need to learn.
Intentional.
Now I need to learn more. Okay. So yeah, let me see if I can ping Brian and I can ping someone and get them to help us offline and then circle back here.
Okay.
All right, Chris has got a question. I'll post this. Let me drop this in the chat. And I actually know why. This is a learning opportunity for us. So let me get to documentation. So, oops, excuse me.
By the way, could I also get the information of how to pre-submit a question?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I guess we need to do a better job of getting that out there. Can we add a link to that to the email or something, Sabrina?
Yep.
All right, so Chris's question is about a thing we added to our release notes. So the question here, I'll just read out for everyone's benefit, is the 6.18 release notes begin with this message: important update, considerations, less structure simplified. What is the less structure? How might this impact our application? So I'll just give you the sort of the history here about this. Is if you look in about version 6 document, which is gives you some information about the major version itself. There's a note here: less structure simplified. Note: less needs to be refactored. Now, what I realized as I was looking through this is there are some breaking changes between major version releases, and it's unfair of us to ask you to scroll through every release notes to identify that. So the request I made to the documentation team was to add a header to all of our release notes that would have non-minor version specific information easily accessible. So that's what you see here. Under important considerations is our notes about things that would broadly affect version 6 that may only be mentioned in earlier release notes. So that's what important considerations is intended to be. just at a general level. So less structure simplified. So in decisions, less is like a way, just for context for everyone, less is like a way to insert variables into CSS. So CSS is what we use to style the HTML that we display in the portal. And CSS, sets widths or heights or padding and margins. But CSS doesn't have variables. And so what we wanted to provide you is a theme editor. If I were to right click on system, I have this thing called a theme editor. And I can change the theme, which is predominantly mostly for colors, right? So I can look at like a portal header color, and I can change the portal header color. So I could change this to, let's say, red, and save. Okay, let's be dangerous here and see if this blows up on me or not. But so less is how we create these variables, because our portal header is probably going to be used in many different locations. And so less is how we create variables in CSS. So we have these files, and I can't show them to you, but for those of you that host yourselves, there you go. We've changed the header color. That host yourselves, there's less files on your system. And the history of decisions here is we were Silverlight application. We introduced a Silverlight and HTML application version 4. We then moved to a more, that we lost the ability in that version 4 to style the HTML portal. You had to actually write physical CSS. Then in version 5, we used this, we introduced lists so that you could have parameterized CSS to allow you to control the portal through the theme editor. But what we realized is that the format of that less was insufficient. It wasn't done correctly. So we refactored that less file structure completely between 5 and 6. And the long and short here, what this note means is that custom less files on version 5 need to be redone. Like the portal styling changes that you have done through the theme editor on V5 will not port to version 6 without at all. Like you have to redo those stylings using the theme editor or custom less edits, whichever the ways that you accomplish that. That's what that note, that's what less is. That's why we have less. And that's what that particular note means, Chris.
Okay, I think that answers what I need to know then.
Yeah, I'll ask, and Ismay, if we could, we need to make this, this needs to be more informational, please. It should say something along the lines of what I said, not the whole history, but version 5 less themes and less files are not supported in version 6 and will need to be redone on an upgrade from version 5 to version 6, please. Like this note, it would be insufficient for informing one of our customers of the impact of that less structure change between those major versions, please. Okay. Yeah, great. I'm glad we had to talk about that. My hope was, like, so I think if you look at version 7, we should see the same thing. Yeah, you'll notice that we're going to have basically a recurring important considerations. Like, for example, that V7 multi-tenancy is not currently in version 7. That you can't run V6 and V7 on the same database. These sort of issues, or these sort of, I guess they call them considerations, that apply to every version of 7. I'm sorry, just a moment here.
So here it looks like there's another update to the less files, so that not only is version 5 not supported, but version 6 needs a review as well.
Sorry, Chris, can you restate that question for me, please?
I was just reading that V6 custom less files are not supported for use in V7, and thinking what you just explained, that V5 to V6 need, those files need to be revisited. So that strikes me as we've had 2 important changes in the less files.
Yeah, probably more than that, but yes, that's those have been quite dynamic. That's the takeaway there.
I think the good news from our side is that we've largely stayed away from that sort of a thing, and this is perhaps why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this doesn't affect this form level CSS that most people use. This is like portal styling itself. Sorry,
Right.
go ahead. Okay. Any other questions there, Chris?
Nope, that's all I had. Thanks.
All right, absolutely. Who else has got questions today? Again, you guys can feel free to ask a question in chat or in the QA, or just use raise hand. Okay, great. We got a question from Martin here. Let me drop this in the chat here for everyone to see. If there's time, very basic question. How can I fetch keys from a simple flow structure? I'm currently doing it by converting my object to JSON and using the GetValueFromJsonByName, but I feel there should be a step for this somewhere. Yeah, we can do this. You don't need to convert this to JSON. Let me get myself, as always, a place to work in. Oh, and I think I have an answer for Murray. Wonderful. Look at Osmond go. All right, let's go to our place to work at here. And I'm going to build a flow. I'm going to create a data structure here. Let's add another designer folder, which is get data pairs from flow structure. Okay, and let's create a data type here, which will be user defined type simple flow structure or just flow structure. This will be called, credit application. And I'll put in, email, date of birth, and value. And this will be a date time. Excuse me, and this will be a decimal. All right, and then let's build a flow. And it'll be get data pairs for simple flow structure, SFS. And on this, I'll go ahead and create my input of my, this way, current, I'll call this thing current credit application. And this will be called, I'll just search for credit. I'll find my type credit application, leave it as a single, and save and close this. And so now if I look at Data Explorer, I have my credit application. So the user request from Martin is he wants to access a particular property. Probably, I'm guessing Martin in some dynamic way, that not just through normal mapping. And so if I search, I believe data pair, I can get data pair to object or create object data pair, I believe is what hold on, no. Object properties to data pairs, I believe is what I want. It's an interesting icon we've applied on that one. And the object, I'm going to say select from flow. I'll pass in current credit application. And then let me go ahead and save this and put together my unit test. So click debug, and I'm going to click edit here. Date of birth, I'll do 0222. And email will be me. And value, this could be, I'll put as 1. Save this as a unit test for easy testing. And let me run this. And now if I look at my inputs and outputs, my object comes in, which you can see as here. And then I get a key value pair, data pair list, output, date of birth, email, value. It looks the same here, but it's actually a data pair list. If we look at the Data Explorer, we can see object properties data pair is a data pair and comes out as name and value. As string, I guess name is string and because it doesn't know what the object type is, it comes out as object type for the value. So that's first, but if we looked at like all names, you can get a list of all names or all output values. You can get a list of all output values. Does that help, Martin? That should be a more streamlined way than moving between JSON. Object to data pairs would give you that same thing without converting it to JSON first. Okay, and he is saying good to go. Okay, great. Yeah, great question. Yeah, what Martin was doing, which you don't need to do, is he probably found it's easier to find if you search for JSON. There's get value or get data pairs for JSON object. So he's having to convert his type to JSON and then use this step, but we don't need to with the object properties to data pair step. Okay, anonymous attendee can be null field in the input editor determines whether we can leave an input set to unknown, correct? Yes. Well, yes, it allows it to be null. Now, so a lot of times it doesn't matter if an object is null or not. But so let me not say that. The needing the ability to specifically handle nulls depends on the data type at hand. So like integers have to be set to be nullable if they could be null. This is a problem where a lot of times when you're creating your service definitions with JSON, where you can get into, because what happens is, unlike a JSON schema, which tells you that the name and the type, and if it's nullable, if like when you create when you just copy a JSON response from a REST service and you paste that in to decisions to create a type from, we can't infer the nullability of a particular property. And so a lot of times dates and integers, but not with strings, if you'll find issues where, if the service can or cannot return a particular integer, you're going to want to set that, either use a JSON schema if you can get one, or if not, create the type from JSON and then set that that property to be nullable. So if we look at our credit application and we edit this thing, what we can see here is like date of birth or value. This thing is not nullable. So if we pass it in null, it'll throw an error. But if we allow null, it'll handle that. It'll handle that null value better. Oftentimes, this is less about mapping things inside of our tool than it is allowing other systems to call our tool. So like using decisions as a consumer of an API, or actually as an API service, I make a call into a decisions flow. So like right now, if I looked at let's look at get data pairs for this. If I set this up to be a REST service, so I configure integration, service settings, integration none, API service, and I click done here and save this. And then I'm going to look at the API service, clicking view. This is our new integration details page. This might be newer for some of you. And I look here, if I try to call this flow from a third-party service, I use this URL, and then I use this as my request body if I'm making a post call. If like value or date of birth is not nullable and I pass it and the JSON actually excludes it, this flow will throw an error. Otherwise, if it is set to nullable, it can handle that. So a nullable can be important depending on how the system's calling decisions can handle their nulls. Like some systems, if a value is null, they don't actually send a 0 like we show here. They will just leave it out of the JSON, and that would throw an error. And the fix for that would be to go set that particular property to be nullable. You'll find that with strings, it doesn't matter if it's null or not. It can handle a null, our system can handle a null string. It doesn't handle null ints as gracefully. So you need to specify that the int or the date time can be nullable. I don't know actually who's asking this. Can we even see, do we not see anonymous people in the attendees list? Do you know, Sabrina?
I'm not 100% sure.
Like, could we have had like 1 million anonymous attendees this entire time and not know?
Don't think that's the case, but I'll research.
Well, I believe. So yeah, if you want, I don't know how to get you to ask a follow-up question because I don't know who you are, but let us know in the chat if that answers your question or not. All right, so to Scott's question, can you talk about the text from data name on a form and the difference from pick from data option? Sure. Let's see here. So let's create ourselves a new place to work in. So get, what is it? Data text from data name question. All right, and I'm gonna create a flow. And in that flow, I'll put a form. Let me just drop a button. So text from data name, is that what shows on the label? Yeah, okay, wonderful. So, all right, so I have two labels on my form right now. They're both set to static text. I can control the text at design time, not at runtime. So label text here would be, this is static, right? I set this label at design time, meaning I'm in the studio, I'm building, I'm designing my flow. But what I need is the value to show them this label to be dynamic. So while text from data name maybe isn't the most intuitive property name, what it says is, instead of you giving label text as a constant value, what I'm going to do is swap out the label text for a property called data name. And this is I'm going to name this thing, I'll say like email address or something. And what I get for this is, you'll see the format where it takes data name and it appends brackets to show you that this is a label, but the content of this label is dynamic. We're going to get this from the workflow engine at runtime, not at design time. Its location is specified at design time, same as this one is, but its value, unlike the label on the left, is not set at design time. If I save this form and exit, you'll notice I have a single input on my flow, which is email address of type string. You can't control the data type of a label. And if I put email address here, I can select from flow and I can find the current user data under flow data. So I'll find flow data, current user email, which you can see is me as the admin account, and click done. And then I'll go ahead and debug this. And what you'll notice is I have my static text that I set at design time, and then my dynamic text. So text from data name, it means give me the value of this label, the actual text value from the flow that owns this form or some other location. It could be a data flow too. Does that help with that particular question?
It does. So we're on 6, and so it looks like the UI has been cleaned up a little bit. In 6, you also have a pick from data object right there, and
yeah, I can talk about that one too. Yep.
Okay.
So what I'm gonna
go ahead.
No, please
go ahead.
All right, I will go ahead. Let's see here. So I need to create input data. So active form flows, where's my stuff? Legacy, data flows, where is it? I'm missing it. Appearance, container type, legacy, style. Where do I set input data at? Active flow, is that what it's called? Active flow managed data. Oh God, that's it. I wish this was on 6. This is on 6. I believe what this is called is form input data. I'm going to add that data object that I created. I'll say, I'll call this thing current credit application. And I'm going to find that credit application that I just created from the previous example. And then I should be able to save this. And it's not giving me a pick from data anymore. Let me try putting a data flow on here really quick, just a moment. Add a data flow, picker create new, form data flow, create. And on this, I want to output a string called email address 1. I'll set that to be a constant of some garbage string, save this, update, and then click OK. If I come back to email address, OK. So I have pick, now you can see pick from data here, right? So if I click pick from data, it's going to show me flow email address 1. So what this is saying is, in the old world, before we had pick from data, let's assume I wanted to set the value of my email address label to be the output of that data flow that I just ran through and created really quickly, which I can walk back through in more detail if needed. In older versions, what I would have had to do to tell decisions to say, run that data flow and then take its output value and pass it to my text box would be to come to here, I'm under flow outputs. I would edit flow output and I would copy this string exactly, flow : email address 1. Then I would come to my label and I would replace this. And if I were to run that flow, or if I run this again, save this and just run my flow here, it should give me ASDF. So it was kind of like a magical format where if I stole the actual output data name of a data flow, I could pass that into other controls. Now I could also just do the same thing for a text box. It's not label specific, right? I could pass this here and I could set my text box also to get its value from a data flow. Maybe I'm pre-populating something for one of my users based on some API call or something and allowing them to edit it and submit it further on. But pick from data said, hey, instead of you needing to know how to navigate like into a data flow, which is now under legacy, but into a data flow and then copying its output value, we're just going to show you all of the available output data in this flow. Maybe it's filtering by type, like I'm not sure exactly, but it just allows you, instead of needing to go copy that, you can just pick it and it'll pick it and paste it into the data name for you automatically, instead of you needing to know where to go and what to copy to get it to work correctly. It's mostly a shortcut. Does that help clear that up at all?
It does. It does. So.
And this behavior is old, so this is the same between V6 and V7. It's just the property grid is slightly different.
Okay. There's one.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
No, it's fine. I have a form, and it gives me a warning every time. And basically, I'm formatting a date of birth as a short date.
Okay.
But the label complains every time that it's an incompatible type. So because I'm using a date time, but then when I put the formatting short date in there,
okay,
it says the type string is incorrectly mapped to default date time format subproperty.
Does it actually display incorrectly, or does it just throw a bad validation?
It displays fine. It just
okay. That's probably just a validation we need to fix. I mean, that should be a short date is a string, right? I mean, a short date should be dealt with as a string,
right?
So I think we're happy to take that on board and make sure we can get that fixed, so you don't have to be bothered by that bad validation. But you can safely ignore that as well.
Yeah.
It's just sort of noise, if you will.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you really needed to get rid of it, like if it was really bothering you, which I understand, like any red is bad, and like as things get more complex, you could do something dumb in a way, but you could just figure out where it's coming from, and then do that data transformation of date to string in like the data flow, and then pass the string out. So I'm not saying you should have to do that, and I'm happy to get that fixed for you in a future version, but that sounds like something you can safely ignore for now. It will not cause problems.
Yeah, I just want to make sure there was. I've tried a number of ways to fix it, and that's just kind of what led me to those those questions. And I just wanted to make sure I understood the nuances of all of the different
absolutely
there. So
no, great question. Happy to help.
So great. Thanks.
Yeah. All right, wonderful. Thanks, Scott. Thanks for the question. All right, anybody actually, so I do have an answer from Ray. You patiently waited. The team has come back with something. So let's go back to the place we built that. So it is in here, and here's our report 1. And he showed me a screenshot under settings. So if we open up settings, there is can add columns, which is currently set to default. When I bet if we look at the default is set to no. So let's check what the default is. Whenever you see a setting that says default, those settings are going to be in one of two places: system settings, and depending on what it is, it'll be in Designer Studio settings or Portal settings. So let's start with Designer Studio settings. And let's search for columns. Let's search for actual column. Can add columns. True. So if I save that and come back to my dashboard, and I click the gear, I click this icon. Wonderful. Now I have add column. So I'm going to add column all tags data and add. And then I'm going to move created by up to the top and click apply. So now I have all tags data, which is empty, and I've moved created by. Now, if I move away from this report and go back to my tasks, I should retain that view, right? Only until I actually reset settings will I lose that view. So they can't, like, this isn't like a permanently, let's see here, save report definition. Yeah, okay, here we go. Man, learning stuff, this is great. Save as current def override. No, I want to save as my copy, and this will be called Will's custom, and I can save this. And now I think if I look at change report, I don't see it there. No, this thing is saved as Will's custom. But how do I want to see, where did that, it's, oops, that's not what I want. Can you guys still see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. So let me exit here. Now, where did that thing get saved at? Interesting. I don't know the answer to that. It's here. It's persistent. If I restart, it'll stay. It'll only be for my user. Report one, change. Favorites? No, how do I find that thing? How do I switch between them? Let's do this. Column. We'll add another column called archived. Apply. Here's archived. And then let's save this definition. This would be called will copy to. So it's will copy to. I can change report to report one. Okay, I see. I can swap back to report one. I can't move between them. That is probably actually just a bug. But you can so I think what the answer here is, you can change the setting and let them add their columns and then modify their reports. And those, they can then save those reports as these definitions. And then we'll have to figure out just how to expose those definitions to you so that they can, and make sure that those definitions are actually persistent and not something that could be lost easily. But I think that's how you can get them to edit their own reports. So you just have now, and if I'm right, then you don't need to add every column into a report. They can click add column. And I believe we can control this at the column level. If we look at our report again, like, let's assume we have a property we can't let them add, which is like entity description. If I look at entity description, can I specify they can't add this? Maybe not. Back to report settings. Can't add multiple columns. Enable snapshot, don't care about that. So can I exclude a particular column? Maybe not. So I guess right now, if you let them add columns, you can't prevent them from adding certain columns. So that would need to be kept in mind.
Okay.
But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I do have a different question. So
yeah,
all I have is some vaguely written requirements. So I'm going to operate under the assumption that they do not want to replace something that's on an existing dashboard, but they want a place to create a brand new report. So would I just then create them a page, drop this report on there, and then each person can do whatever they'd like, where they will completely ignore it if they choose to?
Yeah, I mean, what you see here on the screen, what I've been doing is building a custom report user by user. So if you and I were on the same dashboard, I could have a different version than you. Okay. It's not really a new report. I can just modify the report to my liking, and then that's saved or tagged to my session or my account. And so it like, as I join, if I log in from a different computer, it should show up for me because it's tagged to my account.
Yes, but what they have in their setup now is a standard set of reports that do certain things, and I think they want the ability to create a report that does nothing but whatever specific thing they want it to do. They don't want to replace the default report.
Mhm.
They want a second one. So that's why I think I need to give it a home on a page.
Yeah,
then
probably.
Modify
Like-
it however they choose.
Yeah, like if they have a different report because they want to have like, they want it formatted in a very specific way for like downloading as an Excel file for import to another system, or they group it in a different way, all those types of things. Yeah, you're probably just talking about pages with different report viewers. So either as folders on the tree, or then adding additional tabs, right? Using pages in the existing folder to show different views.
Okay.
Like you can imagine like current versus like historical, like where you have like you remove all the filters and you just know it's going to load slower, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that does to me sound like pages with custom reports built to that particular specification for them. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for asking that question. I learned how to do that today, which is wonderful. All right. Anybody have any other questions? We're at the end of the time here. This has been a great lunch and learn. Okay. If not, then thanks everyone for joining, and appreciate the questions today. And we'll get you that information out about pre-submitting questions ahead of time, and ensure that's in our emails going forward. Appreciate everyone's day. Have a great time. Excuse me. Everyone have a great afternoon.
Thanks, you too, Will.
Bye.
Take care.